Hi, welcome back to another segment of Veterans Did You Know? My name is Dave Eling, and I'm the director of the Muskegon County Department of Veterans Affairs. And we talk from different topics on veterans and veterans issues and what's happening with vets. So today's segment is I'm really proud to have a lifelong friend of mine, Wes Spyke. And Wes is a pastor with the Common Ground Missions, right? Okay. And we're going to talk today about faith-based. You know, a lot of vets, whether you have that faith or don't have faith, but we always kid around that most veterans got religion while they're in the foxhole being shot at, you know, just whether they're heading to vets or whatever the case may be. So, you know, I can't go wrong. I might as well try this and stuff. And then when a veteran comes back and we're dealing with the aftermath of the war, what was seen and done and that they experienced, we have the problems with the old saying that, you know, Johnny was never the same when he came home. And Wes will attest to this because he's a combat veteran. He's in the Navy. He was out on the gunboats along the riverbanks there and stuff, and it was a pretty hairy thing, you know. Yeah. And so we're going to go back and we're going to talk about them things. And Wes, welcome to the show, buddy. I'm glad to have you on.
David.
It's
glad to be here.
And again, if we crack up a little bit here, whatever else, because we're a couple of project boys. We're born and raised over there in Redmond Terrace by Catholic Central, and we can tell some stories that probably can be aired and probably can't be aired. and my wife says, you know, you couldn't have done that many things, but every time she meets a project kid, the same story comes out. She says, well, they have a really good line down where all this stuff really did happen, you know, and it's
all stuff fun. Really did happen.
And for the better. You know, most kids come out of the projects. It seems like they either did really well or they didn't do so well, or whatever it is. You had no expectations on it. I guess that's what it was that your project.
For the most part, they came out pretty good.
Yeah,
I'm surprised.
Did. And I think
even myself, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I know.
Well, actually, I'm shocked. But
and amongst our age group, the project kids, I think we've done this before, gone up and down the courts there where the different families lived, and just a high percentage went in the military at our times. Yes. And we were, you know, the early 60s through the late 60s there when we all came of age, I guess. And boy, most of us went and did that and stuff. So we always had that common bond, though. But Wes is when he does his counseling, what are you seeing, you know, and with the post-traumatic stressors? What do you got? What are you experiencing?
Well, we're finding more and more vets, Dave, they're experiencing, of course, problems within family relationships, and whether it be with their children, but most of the time it's been with their spouse. And as we started to talk with them and interview them, we found out that there was something there that just psychological analysis and psychological testing and all this other stuff, it just wasn't quite getting it. And I've had numerous guys tell me, well, you know, I've been going through this counseling for the last 40 years, you know, off and on and all that business. I said, really? I said, well, how's that working for you? Yeah. And it just occurred to me that as, and bear with me when I say when I turn my life around, I should say that, you know, because of Christianity. And I looked at them all. I looked at Buddhism, and I looked at all the other ones, you know, before I made the jump to hyperspace, and I found that Christianity had more validity for me, and it was more believable for me than any of the other ones. And so as we started studying all this business, you know, and how you get involved in different things, some people go on off to become attorneys and doctors and all that business. And I did my stint with the mechanics thing and working for the county and all that business. And so with all that aside, I just decided to become a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ.
And right here, and when I first hooked up, I retired military, so I've been gone for 20 years. When I came back home, I hooked back up with Wes, and I was a little surprised when I found out he was a minister. Quite frankly, I was. I mean, and this is. No,
I think a lot of people were.
Yeah, I mean, and because I knew what Wes kind of went through. You know, we kept in contact with my brother and this and that, and so we knew what the different kids, what branch of service went in, and yours was pretty hairy. I mean, you went over there, and I know when you came back, some stuff you had going on with you. I mean, you were the typical vet who came home and had been jazzed for a year, being shot at and scraped and whatever else. You came back and you did the wild stuff. I mean, you got the bikes and you were the old West from the projects kid, and then when I came home and found out you returned this, I said something monumental in your life reached out, and then that's what got us talking. It was. You can have all the clinical diagnoses and the clinical speaking about post-traumatic stress or relationship, but there's something, and we've always talked about, there's something in there, that spiritual side, that's never addressed in a complete clinical atmosphere.
Yes.
And again, if you are religious or not religious, it doesn't matter. If you got to believe in something, and those that do believe find that I think that was missing. That niche was missing, and you don't go to the VA and say, my faith was tested, and I'm grappling with what I had to do in this war zone, and coming back to my community, and I don't feel comfortable now sitting in a church and hearing all the things you're supposed to be doing, and grappling with what I had to do over there. How did you get to that part? I know it was a little tough when you came home. So.
Well, when I first came home, Dave, I had a very tough time adjusting back, and I went over and moved over with my sister over in Janesville, Wisconsin, and was there for probably, I'm going to say 3 weeks, month, something like that. And I remember walking in my brother-in-law was an engineer, and they had rented a farmhouse, and they were out in the boondocks, I mean, they were just in the middle of nowhere, cornfields all around. And I can remember many nights walking down these country roads, corn, this tall, and just trying to get your head wrapped around civilian life again. And I had a difficult time doing that, and I remember going over to the Marine recruiter over in Janesville. And I thought about going back again, and I asked the Marines, I said, well, what can you possibly offer me? He says, I can't offer you anything squid but a hard time.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of turned my head a little bit.
I just came back from a year of that.
I just came back from a year of that. I don't want to go through that again. Yeah. So with that, my sister kind of helped me get my head squared around a little bit, and then I came back, and of course, I got into the bikes and the fights and the, drunken brawls and all this and that and the other thing. And, but that was actually, and I think veterans now that have gone down that road find out that road goes absolutely nowhere.
It's a dead end.
It's just a dead end. It's just a dead end deal, and you wasted X amount of years trying to play.
And relationships.
And relationships, my goodness sakes. And so for me, this had to turn around, and of course I got a real good girl, Lillian, a real great gal, and she was kind of that, I'll wrap around you and take you for who you are, even though we have had our differences.
Well, sure.
In intense disagreements, I should say.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, we were able to, the fabric of that was able to hold together. And not saying that we didn't have a difficult time, because we did. She's a very forgiving person, and as we went on in life, I went through just a myriad of jobs, just a myriad of jobs, and couldn't understand why. I mean,
why you got ticked off, and why?
There was a time, believe it or not, there was a time when you could walk from one job to another.
In this community, you could. I mean, it didn't matter if you got fired today or walked out on the job, because you could walk right across the street.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And there were times when I was fired. Just being an idiot. Yeah. But I can remember, but something's wrong. Something's wrong. You're just not interested in this anymore, and people would tick you off or something. You walk in and said, I'm all done. And walk out and go across the street and get another job.
So you can. Oh, yes, I can. Watch this. I'm going to show you. But here we go.
Exactly. But as time went on, I realized that something was wrong. So I really had to dig in and kind of figure out what is making me different from seemingly everybody else, even though there was a lot of vets coming back and all this business. I I wasn't too concerned about them right now because I realized, you know, something's wrong with you. You got to fix you. You know?
Well, hold that thought, because we got to take a little break here and come back and do another segment. And I want you to come back and tune into this because, you know, 92% of all combat vets are on subsequent marriages. It's hard to find a guy that's married to the same lady. And I know there's many vets out there that are watching this and say, man, that's me. You guys, you're talking about me, and it is you. And we want to show you that there's some help out here. So just stay tuned and come back, and we'll be back in just a few minutes.